Right, ladies and gentlemen, we have had, our stomachs, I'm sure, are full. Our minds are probably full as well. However, we are moving on now to the last session, the last chapter, last couple of sessions of today's first day, Shift Dev 2020. And I think you'll agree with me, it's been already quite insightful, lots of insightful ideas, sharing resources as well. And we're going to continue in the same fashion right now. So now we move across over to kind of the design world, a bit of psychology kind of mixed together. Now, the title of this talk is Attractive Things Work Better. Now, attractive things. Are we talking about things? Are we talking about products? Are we talking about people? We'll find out very, very shortly, because the next lady on stage, she's going to share with us, tell us, hopefully give us some insight into what all that actually means. Ladies and gentlemen, hands together for our next speaker on the stage right now, from Emondo Design, Miss Ivana Miličić.
Hello, hi. Okay, so I forgot about needed to be stationed here because of the mic, so I started working already. Today, you're going to do a lot of imagining, and the first one is, imagine that you were being invited from your best friends for dinner, and then they're going to serve you some really, really good Croatian wine. But they're going to pull that wine into a plastic cup. Think about how would you feel. Would you think that that's actually some really good wine? Or if you imagine at the same time that they pour the wine into some nice looking glass, I guess the feeling won't be the same. I think you would really perceive that wine is different wine, not the same wine. Have you ever been in such a situation that you felt that something is tasting differently just because of the way it's served? I guess there must be a reason why in expensive restaurants they paid a lot of attention about how food looks and how it's served. Have you ever actually wondered why? Have you asked yourself why? As designer, that's my favorite question. All day long, I just ask why, how, why, how, why. And I guess everyone that I'm working with is kind of sick of my questions. And they don't even know that I think 3/4 of those why and other questions I actually never ask because I feel too stupid to ask them all. But boom, some magic here today brought to you by an unicorn. That's in this case, me. Oh no, I'm not doing this quite well. So my name is Ivana Miličić. I'm CEO of Emondo Design. Now I don't know how to pronounce my company name. I work as a product designer. I have more than 15 years of experience in various fields of design. That's why I want to call myself, or like to call myself, a unicorn. I know it's a buzzword, but I kind of like it because it really brings some magic into all product team that I work with. And that's because I want to stick my nose into everything, from UX to UI to interaction design, motion design. I like to even do some coding, do some project management, whatever. I really like to be generalist and don't like to be a specialist. And basically, this is what this talk is also going to be about. I hope the dinner was good. Was your dinner good? Yeah, everybody got dinner, or someone stayed without the dinner. Okay. So today we're actually going to do a therapy session. I'm not going to tell you anything that you already don't know. These are all going to be things that you know, but maybe you haven't been aware of them so much. And in these crazy times, I guess all of us need some therapy. So start by thinking about, how do you feel? If your dinner was good, do you feel good or bad? Do you feel at least a bit better after you had good dinner? Or if you're hungry and not feeling well because of that, I guess even my talk, whatever I'm going to say, is going to sound a bit differently. So we need to be aware of how much our emotions actually operate and how they influence our cognitive system, because it's really, really important. It's critical in many situations because there have been some researches even that if you have brain center in your head damaged, that you can't actually make good decisions, or it takes too much time for you to take decision. Or imagine maybe if you're really, really tired, you like coded for 12 hours without any sleep, you're super tired and exhausted, and you have difficult time making any decision. So this is really, really critical. If you're feeling bad, if you're feeling anxious, if you're sad, if you're angry, what actually happens? Your thought process is narrowing. You need to be focused on what's your problem. Why? Because definitely you feel some danger from feeling that way and you want to escape from that feeling. You don't feel good. You're overwhelmed with bad emotions and you want actually to escape from that. These emotions we usually call bad emotions or negative emotions. But actually, when you think about them, they're also really important. Because if you're designing some critical app, you need to help surgeon or you need to help someone who has some critical operation to do with your app, and that person need to be really focused on task that person is performing. Do you want that thing to be playful and super attractive? I guess no. You just wanted that person to be super focused on a task that needed to be performed. So what actually happens when we see one thing that's not attractive? An attractive thing makes us feel tense and anxious. I guess no one likes to see non-attractive things. I guess you all don't feel good about that. What actually happens is that when we saw something that's not attractive, we focus on a problem. We actually need to solve that problem. And if you're working on a digital product, on a piece of a software, and that piece of a software is not looking attractive, your customers, your users are actually going to feel like any usability issue that you have there is actually more big. They're going to feel and sense more difficulties than there actually are. And they're going to make much more complaints about your product because they just feel bad with seeing thing that is not attractive. On the other thing, imagine how do you feel when you see something that is attractive and you actually are happy, joyful, you feel funny, and that is making you willing to learn more. You feel good about learning, you are becoming more curious because that's something that is making you feel good, and that actually boosts creativity and brainstorming. And if your digital product is actually having some small usability issues, but is attractive and is looking good, what your users are going to do, they will say, oh, this looks so cool, this is fancy, this is nice, this looks so neat. Even if there is a problem, they will try to solve that usability problem once again. They would not quit using your app just because they opened it and it looked unattractive. It looked attractive. They will try to do their tasks once more. So what is happening when we are seeing attractive thing? We feel good, and that actually makes us prone to think more creatively, and that is that is making us come with more alternatives, that is making us more tolerant about that product. And I'm going to ask you one question, and just close your eyes and imagine one thing. What is attractive? Just one thing. When I was preparing this presentation, this was my first thought. Anyone else here imagined car when I said what's attractive? I'm the only one. Okay. And I guess even if someone imagined car, it probably wasn't this exact model, color, and so on. So what I'm actually wanting to tell you is, how are we going to design a thing that is attractive to everyone? Just think about it. So when we're talking about our emotional being. We all are feeling some emotions. You can probably hear from my voice and everything that at the moment I'm feeling fear. Although this is the most incredible and beautiful stage I've been ever talking at. It's open air and I'm kind of scared. That's my feeling. Every one of you also has some current emotions, so they're immediate. But other than that, we also have moods, and they last much longer, somewhat longer, maybe a few hours, maybe a few days. Like maybe you're in some weird mood, or maybe you're in some really creative mood last couple of days, or maybe you are tired and also that makes you a bit depressed. But that's just a mood because it's going to last for a couple of hours or maybe a couple of days. They last longer, but not so long. Then when we are speaking about us and our emotional being, we all have some personality traits. Like, I'm quite an introvert. I hate speaking publicly. That's why I'm here. Hi. And I know a lot of you also have some of your own personality traits which you have developed through your lifetime. Some of those may be changed. Maybe you've worked upon changing some of those traits. And maybe also you don't show all of your traits to everybody the same. I guess you don't act the same when you're talking and interacting with your parents, with your working colleagues, with your best friends, with your significant other, with your kids. So these are some traits that we show dependent on situation, upon our life cycle or where we are currently in our life. And all of that is making our personality. And then we actually want to design something for all of us, not just us here, but everyone, and just telling that that thing should be attractive to everyone. Hello, how? We already see that what I thought is attractive is not attractive to all of you. You all imagine something differently. But there are some tricks and some recipes that we can use to at least try to design something that is attractive to everyone. So to try to do that and to be successful at that, we are actually trying to understand a bit better human psychology and how human brain works. And to simplify it, we can say that our brain is actually operating on 3 levels. And these 3 levels of brain start from the yellow one down there, which is our unconscious part of the brain, and on top, on that blue part, which is actually our consciousness. And this part in between, which is green, is something in the middle, where we are between unconscious and conscious. So let's start with that first, or the yellow part of the brain, because for today's talk, this part is actually the most important one. So visceral level, or that first part of the brain, the one that's been developed the first in the history of human being, is actually operating on our pre-conscious level. We are not thinking about those stuff. And it's developed long time ago, when we were actually living in a wild without all these goods of civilization. And what was then important to us? To spot the threat. Is there something dangerous around us in the woods? If there is, if I see the tiger, what would I do? I guess if I see the tiger in the woods, I would probably try to escape if I can, so I'll try to fly. But if there is no chance to run away, and then the tiger is already somewhere here by my body, what I'm going to do? At least I would try to fight. Maybe you won't. I'll try to fight, at least for a bit. And if I can't fight, because that beast of a tiger is definitely stronger than I am, what I'm going to do is forfeit. Okay, I'm going to surrender. I'll pretend that I'm dead. Maybe there is a way to escape in that way. And that's what I can do. And we still, although we are really upgraded our brains in the meantime, we are still basically operating on that level all the time. So for that part of our brain, appearance really matters. Why? Because we need to spot the tiger in the woods all the time. When we are the most relaxed, we would still need to protect ourselves from danger. That's what we have in our genes. We need to keep ourselves alive. And for that reason, first impressions matter. Do you remember of meeting someone who really made a great first impression on you, and that sticked forever. And maybe someone who made really bad first impression and you never wanted to actually interact with that person ever again. Maybe that impression was wrong, but you really have just one time to get first impression well. Next, or that green in the middle part of our brain, is behavioral level. And on that part of the brain, we actually are doing or performing our tasks and functions. And in this part of a brain, we are actually thinking how to use, and what we do today, software development, how we are using our app. Everyone here, I guess, knows how to ride a bike or how to swim. That's something we learned. Do we ever think about that while we are doing that? I guess no. We just sit on a bike, we ride a bike. But do we know that from the beginning? Have we been born with that? I guess no. That's something what we have learned. On behavioral level, we are actually thinking a lot about what is something meant to do. Like if we are using some app, we are thinking, what is this app is used for? What I'm going to accomplish by using this app? And then I'm starting to think, how well does it's performing? Is it doing that well or good? Can it be better performed? Is it easy to use? It's where usability comes into place. And then on the top, we have our reflective level, where we actually think. There is our consciousness. There is where we think, where our self-image is actually really important. We reflect, we think about how something was used, was it good or bad, how that impacted my life, how that simplified my work, or how I accomplished some task with that, how it was looking, how other people are perceiving me because of using that thing, and so on. But this reflective level is heavily influenced by our culture and our education and our own experiences, our individual differences, and this level can actually override all other brain levels. Because, like, imagine one situation, you're on a roller coaster. I'm afraid, I'm terrified of those experiences. I'm afraid of heights, I'm afraid of everything. It's awful. But when I get on a roller coaster and survive that, how I feel after that? I feel awesome. I feel so proud about that. So I'm overriding all other brain levels, all that fear, all that I felt on visceral and behavioral level while I was holding like crazy because I couldn't move. And I'm feeling proud of myself. So this reflective level could override all other brain level experiences. In past and future, we are basically only reflecting. What's happening is what's now. In this place, in this moment, this is what's happening now. And while user is actually using our app, it's happening now. And it's actually that our visceral and behavioral level are those levels of brain that are interacting with the app at that point of time, now, while they're using it. Everything that will happen in the future would be a reflection of how they were using that. And also then it's going to be in the past because it was when that app was used. So to get the best from our users and to have them feel that our app is the best and the one that's performing and working perfectly, we should attack behavioral and most of all visceral level for the first impression of how our app is going to work. So what's basically attractiveness? Is it the same as beauty? Would you say that attractive and beautiful is the same? No, it's actually different. Attractiveness, if you think about it, is something that's similar to all people because that's something that's actually reflecting, relating to our visceral level. And beauty is dependable on what our individual differences, our own experience, our education, our culture, and so on is. So if we want to be attractive and beautiful in our app, and not beautiful, attractive in our app design, we would actually use some things which are correlated with basic visual perception rules that I'm going to show you just in a few minutes. so that we can actually make our visceral level of a brain react promptly and have it actually understand that something that we are building is actually attractive and good to it. And also we would going to use some behavioral tricks for usability so that our app is going to feel usable all the time. And at the end, we have reflective design, which is going to actually appeal on our self-image. And because it's reflective, it's about how we were, after all, thinking about how our app was working. So main takeaway from this part is actually that you will never get a second chance for a first impression, so really be aware of how this is going to be. So what is actually going on when we are interacting with an app? We're actually using our senses, which are receiving a lot of inputs, a lot of sensory data. They're going into our brain, into all these 3 levels. And out of that, we are actually sensing meaningful objects and some signs and some symbols. So we receive really a lot of data through all our senses, and then we need to interpret them, oh my God, to get into meaningful thing. And when we are speaking about user interfaces or app design, we are basically speaking mostly about our visual perception. So for our visual perception, what is the most important? That there is no tiger in the woods that is actually waiting for us to attack us and eat us for dinner. So how actually we perceive information, how we group information, what's going on actually on our subconscious level while we are seeing something. Can you see something here on this picture? Anyone who spots something, please raise the hand. More you look at it, there's more chance that you'll see something. You see the dog? Anyone sees the dog, or maybe there's someone sees something else? Okay, there is the dog, I hope. But maybe there's something else. You could probably remember sometimes when you saw images in the cloud or in some spot on the wall or somewhere you saw something. Why? Because our brain actually wants to have order. Our brain doesn't want to have chaos. It wants to have some meaningful object from whatever we are looking at. We need to have something meaningful from that. And over here, do you see 3 Pac-Men talking to each other, or maybe you see something else? Okay, probably some triangles, right? And could you read this text, although some letters are missing? I guess you can. Why? Because our brain is filling the gaps. Because wherever is a gap, but we can connect it to find the meaning, that's what we are going to do. We will connect the meaning and fill the gaps in. What you see here was box looking like left or right image for you. I guess some of you saw one, some saw the other, right? That's because you probably maybe even saw the both, because some things could be seen in both or even multiple ways. So whenever is something that we can see differently, we actually are switching quickly between stable alternatives. Our brain needs to find something stable, needs to find order out of chaos, and we are seeing 2 different images, finding something and then staying on that image. That's really important in design because we need to also try to always look at what potentially could be seen that we were not seeing when we were designing something. There are some crazy examples about what's actually sometimes visible that designers were not aware at the beginning. If this is your friend at the street, would you recognize her? Although she's from the back and you don't see her face, probably you would. But also there's a chance that you wouldn't, but it's more of a chance that you would. So our brain is trying to recognize things we know. So whenever we can recognize something, we would. But that also is leading to some illusions and also misconceptions, because sometimes we will recognize something that is not there. Sometimes we will think that the tiger is over there, although it was not tiger, it was cat or something else. Maybe it was just a mouse or something. But we would recognize something and react upon that. What do you see here? Fish or boat or both of that or sun or whatever. Again, our mind is quickly switching between different alternatives. And what we always want to figure out is actually figure, not the ground. Because we want to spot the tiger that is moving to attack us, we need to spot something that is in front of us that could potentially be danger. Not the background around us, but what's actually some subject that could be potentially dangerous. So when used in UI design, we put more meaningful things we want to interact with, into foreground. That's our figure. We want those things to be there. What about this? I'm showing you a lot of circles which are different in color. And I guess when you look at this picture, you see actually 2 rows. Actually, you see 5. I need to calculate rows of circles which are pink and which are blue. But you separate them by color. I don't need to tell you. That was already in your mind. When you saw this, you saw 2 different colors and you saw rows of different colors. When I show you something like this, I guess you still can spot differences between shapes. You would probably pick those rectangles out of the circles, but are they so visible as the color difference was? I guess it wasn't. Probably you didn't notice that so easily as color difference. So when some objects are similar, we are actually connecting them and we are making them similar, same in our brain. And that is actually overriding all the differences. And in user interface design, when we want some things to be perceived as doing same things, we're actually going to show them same. With same color, same size, same icons or photos or whatever we are going to use. And we need to make enough of a difference for that to be clear. On this example that I'm showing, some of things are not actually the best. We can see differences, we can spot some chunks of a content, but some things are not performing perfectly. It could be better, but that's for some other talk, because I can't go into details. This is just a therapy session where we are trying to figure out what's behind our perception. When we look at this, we easily spot 3 columns of colored dots, right? You don't think about this, about separate dots. You probably are not thinking at this exact moment about rectangle of dots, but 3 columns of dots. Why? Because we're actually combining and grouping objects by their proximity. What's close together, we actually perceive as belonging together, to each other. And those different colors didn't matter. We can also group together some objects by circling them, putting them inside a rectangle, putting them on some background. And in that way, we are actually saying these objects belong to each other. This is one part, and everything that's out is something else. So that's quite often used in user interface design, because whenever we have something, it's grouped together, and we know this belongs to one thing, and what's not close to it belongs to something else. What we also are hardwired to follow and think about in our visual perception is whatever is on the line, we follow that line. And in this case here, we follow those lines. We can have a break because of a color, so we can see and perceive this in 2 ways, but still when we see the line, we follow the line, however that we are going to follow the lines. And are you going to more easily perceive info on the left or right chart? I guess probably, I'm now confused with the sides, but probably the one that is actually growing, because it's much easier to perceive who has something less or something more. And that's because we are used to think about continuums. Actually, on pre-conscious level, we don't think. We just continue to follow the line or whatever, the path that we are going through. And that's also quite often used and seen in different user interfaces. We have things that are going one to the other and so on. Objects that think as or seeing as moving together or in similar direction are also perceived as something that is going together, that has the same destiny, the same fate, or something like here. Like we can quickly separate those objects that are moving in one direction from the objects that are moving in the other direction. And that's because what's synchronous in our mind is actually going together. It's belonging together. And it's really important for any movement in user interaction design. For any animations that we are going to ever do on our interfaces, it's really super important that we are aware of how objects are actually moving. Are they moving in same or similar direction, or they're moving in chaos and then no one actually knows what's going on there? And for the end, just to summarize everything, and to help us think about how to build products or user interfaces that are going to be attractive. Do you all, when you see this, focus on just one, that red dot? I guess so. There's no way when I show you this to look at something else. So whatever is our user interface, it's us as designers who are going to tell users where to look. So we are creating a focal point, or actually place of interest, where we are going to lead our users to start looking at. And then it's again on us to build some visual hierarchy and to separate same information with same style, same visual appearance, and then to say this is the most important part, this is something that's less important but still important, and then this is something that is maybe not so important but maybe you're going to need that. And designer is a person who is actually going to lead users' eyes through the interface. And what's also important there is that we keep the sense of unity. If we make something and we make something attractive, we have really interesting focal points, someone is interested in our design, everything is working, but then our site or our app is broken because we are using too many styles, and on some page or some screen our user is lost and doesn't even know which app is that, then we lost sense of unity and we lost our user there. So just three things. Focus on focal point, then build your visual hierarchy well, and then take care of that you always have everything unified in one consistent experience, because that is actually your safety guide. That is how you build your consistency there. So just learn all rules like a pro, and then you can break them. Whatever I told you today, maybe you can forget it. Maybe it's not so important if you know it. So that's it from me. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I'm here.